glad to welcome you to my channel Sinister Horror Stories. Before we start the story, I would like to ask you to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you. I never believed in the supernatural. Ghost stories were just that, stories. But what happened to me in Mexico wasn't a story. It was real. It's something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life, no matter how hard I try to forget. My name is Sam, and I was a senior anthropology student when it all happened. It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, a chance to explore the ancient ruins of the Yucatán Peninsula, a chance to see the world beyond the sterile walls of a classroom. Our professor, Dr. Ramirez, had secured a grant to take a small group of us to study the lesser-known Mayan sites, the ones tourists never see. We were all eager, hungry for adventure, for discovery. There were 5 of us students: me, Jenny, Mark, Carla, and Tom. We were the top of our class, handpicked by Dr. Ramirez himself. We flew into Cancun and then drove for hours into the heart of the jungle, the green swallowing us whole as we left civilization behind. Our destination was a tiny village called San Mateo, a place that didn't appear on any map we could find. Dr. Ramirez told us it was an authentic Mayan community, untouched by time, living in harmony with the jungle. It sounded like a dream, the kind of place you read about in travel magazines. The village was a cluster of thatched huts, surrounded by thick jungle on all sides. The people were kind but quiet, their eyes dark and watchful. I noticed right away that they didn't like to look at us directly, especially not at night. They kept to themselves, whispering in a language I didn't recognize, even though I'd studied Mayan dialects. The first night, we stayed in a small guest house on the edge of the village. It was a simple structure, but comfortable enough. As we settled in, Dr. Ramirez gathered us around the fire and told us the plan. We were to explore the ruins deep in the jungle, places he had visited only once before, years ago. Places where the jungle had reclaimed the stone, where the air was thick with the weight of history. There are things in the jungle, he warned us that night, his voice low and serious. Things you must respect. The Mayans believed that the jungle was alive, that it was a gateway to the underworld. Don't stray from the group. Don't take anything from the ruins. And above all, if you hear something in the night, do not follow it. We all nodded, but I could see the excitement in everyone's eyes. We didn't believe him, not really. We were there to learn, to explore, not to be scared by old stories. The next day we set out at dawn. The jungle was alive with sounds, birds, insects, the rustle of leaves in the breeze. The path was narrow, winding through dense undergrowth, and it wasn't long before we lost sight of the village. The air was heavy, humid, and the deeper we went, the darker it became, as if the trees themselves were swallowing the light. After hours of hiking, we reached the first site. It was breathtaking, a stone temple, half buried in the earth, with carvings that seemed to pulse with life. We spent the day documenting everything, taking notes, snapping photos. Dr. Ramirez was in his element, guiding us, pointing out details that we would have missed. But as the sun began to set, the jungle changed. The sounds that had filled the air all day fell silent, leaving an eerie stillness. A cold wind blew through the trees, and I felt a shiver run down my spine. Time to head back, Dr. Ramirez said, his voice breaking the silence. We packed up quickly, eager to get back before dark, but the way back felt different. The path that had seemed so clear now twisted and turned in ways I didn't recognize. The trees seemed closer, the shadows longer. Then we heard it, a faint sound like someone whispering just out of earshot. I glanced at Jenny, and she nodded, hearing it too. We stopped, straining to listen, but the whispering stopped. It was as if the jungle itself was holding its breath. "Let's keep moving," Dr. Ramirez urged, his voice tight. But the further we walked, the louder the whispering became. It was all around us, echoing through the trees. I couldn't make out the words, but it felt wrong, like something was speaking directly into my mind. And then we saw them, figures moving in the shadows, just at the edge of our vision. They were tall, their faces hidden in the darkness, their movements slow and deliberate. My heart pounded in my chest as I realized they were circling us, closing in. "Don't look at them!" Dr. Ramirez hissed, his voice filled with fear. "Keep walking. Whatever you do, don't look." We tried to move faster, but the jungle seemed to close in around us, the path narrowing until we were forced into single file. The whispering grew louder, more insistent, and I could feel something tugging at the edges of my consciousness, pulling me toward the figures in the shadows. Mark was the first to break. He turned just for a moment and screamed. I'll never forget that sound, the pure terror in his voice. I turned too, against every instinct, and saw them, tall, thin figures with eyes like black holes, unnatural smiles. Mark ran, crashing through the undergrowth, the whispering voices rising to a deafening roar. The rest of us followed, panic overtaking us. We ran blindly, branches slashing at our skin, roots tripping us up. I could hear Dr. Ramirez shouting for us to stop, but I couldn't. All I could think about was getting away, putting as much distance between myself and those things as possible. We must have run for hours, but it felt like minutes. By the time we stopped, gasping for breath, the jungle was silent again. The figures were gone, but so was Mark. We called for him, searched the area, but he was gone. Just gone. Dr. Ramirez wouldn't let us go back. He said it was too dangerous, that the jungle had claimed him. We had to leave, to get out before it took us too. The rest of the trip was a blur. We returned to the village, packed up our things, and left as quickly as we could. The villagers wouldn't look at us, wouldn't speak to us. They knew. They had known all along. We never found Mark. His family was told he had an accident, that he fell and was lost in the jungle. But I know the truth. We all do. The jungle took him, claimed him like it had claimed so many others before. I haven't gone back. I never will. Sometimes, late at night, I hear the whispering, soft and distant, like a memory that won't fade. And I know, deep down, that the jungle is still there, waiting, whispering, and that it never truly lets go. Thank you for listening to the story. I hope you enjoyed it. Share your impressions in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like this video. Thank you.